The importance of taking responsibility for your well-being. Let me think about this for a second, you guys. There's so much shit going on in the world and in our lives that makes us feel anxious. I wish I could see if someone was commenting, but I can't. There's so many things going on in the world that make us feel anxious. I bet you can think of some right now. My tech guy's online. Okay, we've got one live participant. If you are watching this, please send me a message. I just got your message, Nico. I adore you. And there's so many reasons why we could feel anxious. I bet you could think of a handful right now. I'd love you to tell me one. If you're watching this, write in the chat a reason, a veritable reason why you have a fair reason that you have to feel anxious, that is justified, that is fair, that is validated, that is true, that is real, that is why you're feeling anxious, that is why. Write it in the chat. Tech guy, if you're the only one here, then I'm counting on you to write a reason why you could feel anxious in the chat. There's a million reasons why anyone could feel anxious. It could be your busy life. It could be your job. It could be what just happened in the stock market. I felt really anxious as a result of that. How about coronavirus? Hi, 5G Conspiracy. Hamani, I'm so glad that you're here. It's so good to have you here. Oh my gosh, thanks for joining. Did you hear what I said? That I just did this whole live thing from 5 p.m. until now on private. Like the setting was private on Facebook Live, so I did it for myself. So I'm starting over now. It's my first time on Facebook Live, so it should give you an example. So Hamani, I'll say it one more time. The reason why I'm here is to tell you why we need to be, not you, but everyone, why we need to take responsibility for our well-being. So I'm hoping a few of you will filter in with more ideas about why we can be anxious, because the list is indefinite. So coronavirus, chemicals in our food, poor quality food, pollution, environmental toxins, toxic people in our lives that we can't get rid of, family members in our lives that we can't get rid of, jobs that we've lost, our financial state. I mean, the health crisis, as I mentioned, there's so many, overwhelmed with juggling work remotely. Yeah, that's a real serious challenge for a lot of people adjusting to a totally new normal. And I want you to know that I sympathize with you guys. I completely sympathize with the anxiety or the stress that feeling out of control with a situation brings you, right? What is the source of anxiety? It's feeling out of control, ultimately. It's feeling like there's this terrible thing that I'm feeling, or this terrible thing in my life that's going on, and I have no control over it. But I want to make a clear distinction between the feeling that we have about what's going on in that reality, the feeling about the internal feeling, the internal experience of what's going on, or excuse me, there's a difference between our experience, internal experience of that circumstantial reality, and that circumstantial reality. Sorry, that was a little jumbled. I hope that makes sense. There's a big difference. So here's the story that I want to share with you guys. I have a spiritual coach. I'm a coach, and I guarantee you any coaches that you come across have had many coaches themselves, people that are helping them, people that are interested in self-improvement often have learned from a lot of people themselves, and I have too. And I have a spiritual coach, and he is theoretically enlightened. He is a guru. He is an amazingly deeply spiritual person who I've never seen with any reaction other than one of common peace. And I mean, he's Buddha. Like, the bombs could be being dropped around him and he would be meditating, kind of a guy. And he's also, because of that, a kind of guy that a lot of people come to with problems that they want guidance on, and they want him to resolve. They want him to tell them what to do. So I had a day where I was telling him all of my fears. This is a few months ago before I started this business. Fears about, could I make this business work? Will I be able to do it? And I just wanted him to tell me, yes, I've seen the future and you're going to do it. And so I didn't have to worry about it anymore. So I didn't have to take responsibility for having that faith myself, right? I wanted him to tell me that it was okay to have the faith, because I gave him the power to believe in me as opposed to myself. And it was just a bad day for him. He had a terrible reaction to whatever I was saying, I triggered the shit out of him, and he just came down really heavily on me. And he just was rude, and he just made me feel small, and he was angry, and he was short, and he was just not very kind or warm, and he was not the person that I had seen before. And I was so angry with his reaction, how he treated me, and I couldn't get over it. This is you're supposed to be a fucking spiritual guru. What's wrong with you? Of course I'm going to come to you with my problems. That's like what I'm here with you for, what I'm paying you for. Guide me, help me through the pain spots. If I had everything figured out, I don't need help with the high points in my life. I need help with the pain spots. And he was angry and mean and short and rude, and he let his bad day come down on me. And I was so mad about that. And I had a friend who was also on that call. I think there were a couple hundred people on the call. And the friend said, well, don't you know that you also gave him permission? You gave him consent to let his shitty day and shitty mood have value in your life. So the circumstance is real, right? The circumstantial reality was that he was rude and short and all of those things. But my internal experience of that reality is up to me. So we're human. We have the right to be human. We always retain the right to be human. And that, what I mean by that, is to have emotional reactions sometimes to things that are difficult. This coronavirus is scary. Losing money is scary. You have that feeling. Be human. But whether or not you internalize it and then react and act on those fearful-based emotions, it determines whether or not that circumstantial reality, you give it consent to act in your life, right? Like you're kind of the gatekeeper. So coming full circle, it took me a while to realize that she was right. That no matter how shitty and rude someone is, I still determine that it's important enough, their shitty bad day is important enough to have it affect my mood. And so here's the thing. A lot of us, I'd say almost all of us, I'd say all of us, have experienced anxiety at some point or will. And most of us probably are currently anxious, right? If you are anxious, give me a wave, say it's me in the chat. Let me know that you're there, because I'm anxious. So I want you to know it's definitely not just you. And there's a million sources of anxiety, and we went through some of those a few minutes ago. There are so many. I focus on the biggest four umbrellas that I know how in my private coaching to address those as much as possible. But here's the thing. If you want to impact change in your life, the first step is to take responsibility for the place that you're currently in. Now, that can be really painful for a lot of people, because it means they have to look in the mirror and say, I don't like where I'm at. I don't like who I am. I don't like how I feel. I'm jealous. I'm comparing myself to other people. I can't possibly be responsible for this. That's too ugly. Why? That's too painful to feel this way. It has to be the food our food source that I have no control over. It has to be these people. It has to be my family. It has to be my boss. It has to be the economy. It has to be like literally anything outside of myself. But here's the thing with pointing the finger and giving the responsibility to external things. It feels good in the moment. And we do it sometimes because we're human. It feels really good in the moment to do that. And sometimes we will because we're human. But most of the time, we want a different practice. Most of the time, we don't want to outsource the responsibility, because when we outsource the responsibility, we also outsource the power. And what do we know is the source of real anxiety? Having no power. So when I talk about control and power, I'm not talking about like strangling our life situation, but I'm talking about less than I am, not so much control and power as I am responsibility for. So when I say I'm responsible, when I look in the mirror and I say I'm responsible for this place that I am in my life, no matter how ugly, no matter how painful, guess what? I also now have, for the first time, put someone in the driver's seat to actually change the course, change the direction, impact change. Because when I'm saying it's all these other reasons outside of myself, there's literally no one in the driver's seat in your life to impact any change. And that, if you think you're anxious now, that will make you so incredibly anxious, feeling that out of control. So I know it takes a lot of courage to take responsibility for where you're at, but I encourage you to do so. You have to. You have to, as a part of as being someone who's about personal development, being someone who's aware of a higher place that they want to get to. You have to take responsibility for yourself, and there's no black and white. It's not I get to take responsibility for myself when it feels good and when I do good things, and then when it's bad, it's someone else's responsibility. No, it's all or nothing. Either you're someone that is proactive or reactive. Now, I hate to boil it down to something that small, but it really does come down to that with people. Are you proactive or are you reactive? Are you someone that says it was their fault? I couldn't do it because of them. They have a terrible mood. My boss was in a shitty. They won't give me a promotion. The economy's tanking. There's things in my food that I can't possibly be aware of that are impacting all these toxic chemicals in my household products. You know, my girlfriend's being a real bitch. Like, fuck her. Like, are we someone that's going to react and just let those reactions drive our life and be responsible for our life? Or are we someone that's going to be proactive and take responsibility for the place that we want to go? Because reaction says, oh, this is what happened, and my only possible other outcome is as a result of my reaction. Proactive says, okay, this is what happened, but what can I do? What can I do right now? Because the second that you say, what can I do? And you approach it from that place, because there's always something that you can do. Always something. Whether it's, well, I won't get off track. There's always something that you can do, whether it's internal or external, right? Whether it's internal work or actually physically doing something in the world, there's always something that you can do. And so being a proactive person, they say, well, let me think about it this way. Let me approach it this way. They take full responsibility internally. They say, okay, this is what's happening. I have no control over that. My sphere of influence is internal, and it's my reaction. So again, when it comes to anxiety, we've got lifestyle, we've got family, we've got friends, we've got jobs, we've got stress, we've got environmental toxins, we've got food chemicals in our household products, we've got the economy, we've got coronavirus, hello, crazy health crisis like almost none of us have ever even experienced, certainly not in this lifetime. Plenty of excuses if you want to take them. But when you outsource the responsibility, you also outsource the power. So why would you want to do that? Right? Do you want the car of your life to be, driverless? So yeah, it's really scary. It's really painful. And this is something that I help my personal clients with directly, is to confront that pain of taking responsibility for a place that you're not really proud of. But here's the good news. When you take responsibility for it, all of a sudden, for the first time, you can influence change. You cannot influence change from a place of zero responsibility. Think about that for a second. You cannot influence change from a place of zero responsibility. So when you're scrolling on Instagram and you're seeing people's lives that you're fucking jealous of, people that are traveling, people that seem rich, people that seem happy, people that seem whatever they seem, first of all, it's not real. It doesn't matter though, because seeing or being aware of, however we are aware of some other version of life that we're jealous of that we want, whether that's on social media or a friend that we're close with or whatever, doesn't matter. But however we're aware of some other version of life that makes us feel jealous, you can never get there until there's someone driving the car there. I kind of like that analogy. I've actually never thought of that before. I think it's really clear. Like when there's no responsibility, when you're saying it's all of these things outside of me, there's no driver. Who can get to a new place if the car is just sitting in the lot, turned off? So there's a number of ways that we do this specifically with anxiety, and I coach a specific kind of woman just because that's what I know. We look at acceptance and ownership. So that's part of this taking responsibility place, saying that even though I'm in this place now and that the person that I have been, that doesn't mean that is the person that I have to be or that I will be. But the only change that will happen once we shift that, once we say, okay, this is super painful, but it was my choice, and we can get into in another call why that choice needed to be the way that it was and why that choice was perfect, because it led you to this now up leveling that you're going through. we look at acceptance and ownership as part one. And then we look specifically at nutrition and lifestyle, because nutrition and lifestyle is the one area that there's actual physical reality impacting how we feel. There's a chemical influence based on how we feed and treat ourselves. So we need to consider what we're eating and what we're putting in our mouth, and what we're putting on our body, and what we're using in our home, and how much sleep we're getting, and the people that we choose to be around, and the activities that we choose in our day. So we look at that in nutrition and lifestyle, and then we look at it in energy and emotions, which is really more focused on how we, really focused on, what was I going to say? Oh, how we spend our time. So nutrition and lifestyle is how we feed and treat ourselves. Energy and emotions is how we spend our day. The things we commit to, the people, the choices, the activities, the plans, and how we can clean out to create more energy for ourselves and do activities that are actually lifting us up. And then the last segment is faith and intuition. And this is a little bit, maybe abstract. Hi, Avital. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm just about wrapping up, but I'd love it if you go back and watch. I was such an idiot that I did this whole video on a private setting so I was just like doing myself. So then I started over about like 20 minutes ago. But go back and watch the video if you have time and let me know what you think. I hope it resonates. So I'm just wrapping up, but the last piece of that is faith and intuition. So many of us today run our lives from a place of fear versus practicality, which is another form of outsourcing the responsibility. Because, oh, this is what they said I should do. This is what other people have done in their life. This is what's practical. This is what makes sense. This is what's proven. This is what there's evidence for. But faith is a totally different thing. And practicality leaves us in a really starved place emotionally, because, again, we're outsourcing the responsibility. That's how we end up in a life that we don't recognize. So all in all, there are tons of circumstantial realities that can drive anxiety. There's no doubt about that. But how we internalize and how we accept and consent with those realities, how we emotionally process them, is 100% of the time our choice. And when we're focused on self-improvement and personal development, and if we want to be one of those people that has any hopes of getting to a better place, emotionally, financially, physically, spiritually, whatever way you want to think of, if we have any hope of getting to a better place personally, this is the place that we have to start. Taking ownership. Because again, that's the only thing that puts a driver in the car. It's taking ownership. So let me know if you guys have any questions. For those of you that have watched it, Hamani, my sweet Nico, my tech guy. Hamani, I'm so glad that you're here. 5G conspiracy does freak me out too, by the way. That actually, Nico and I watched a documentary this weekend that was a bit it was conspiracy heavy. We liked it, but I'm not going to say it because it's pretty extreme. But we watched this conspiracy documentary, and it talked about 5G and how much of an impact that's going to have on the health of our health. And it's really, really scary. But at the same time, if we can't control it and we decide to let that fear within us, that's still our responsibility. So, Avital, thanks for joining. It was really good catching up with you this afternoon. You guys, the last little message that I'll send you off with is this. Let me think about my words. Gosh, it's up to you how you feel on a daily basis. And truly, the only thing that matters, which we don't all realize, is the only thing that matters is our mental and emotional experience. We think that the circumstances drive that mental and emotional experience, but it's driven from within. And I guarantee you've come across people that have nothing, that are poor, that work as trash men or whatever, that have theoretically not much to be happy about, and they have the biggest, broadest smiles you've ever seen, and their eyes shine brighter than anyone you've seen in your daily life, because they're driving that from within. So learn and understand the beautiful notion that yes, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it, but when you have that feeling of satisfaction, of peace, of joy, of energy, of fulfillment that we're all really after, ultimately, you can have that without changing a single circumstance in your life. And when you do that, you'll finally realize that no circumstance matters. No circumstance has an impact on you. And what does that do? That makes your joy unconditional. And that's something everyone in this world wants. Something everybody wants, but they don't really realize it in those terms. So when your joy is unconditional, it doesn't matter if you lose all the money in the world. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter who's there, frankly. It just matters what you have internally. You could be completely alone and feel like you're bathing in love. And so that's my message for today. Go take responsibility, learn from that, look yourself in the mirror, be gentle, be loving, be kind with yourself, and then realize that the second you do take responsibility for it is the second that your life will start to change. So that's my message, you guys. If any of you are here, send a little note. Let me know if you have questions. Please read, reread, rewatch this, and let me know what you think. Please share it. Oh, and one more thing. Please go in the top right corner of your screen and turn on notifications for my Facebook Lives, because I'd love to have you here again. It would mean a lot. Hamani, turn on those notifications, buddy. We've had the same Uber drive twice, and we both work in holistic nutrition. Like, what are the chances of that? You're from Morocco. I love Morocco. Avital, we're on the same journey. You're going to be in health school. Nico, you don't have a choice because you're my guy. All three of you, I expect you to turn on those notifications from my Facebook Lives. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I think there's a little bit of a delay on the messages, so I am going to sign off now, but if I do get a message that comes through late, I'll send you a message or a response personally. But I love all three of you and anyone else that might have been watching. And please share this and turn on notifications and let me know what you think. Have a beautiful day, you guys. Bye.